Welcome to Horns Up. It's another beautiful start to the week. Beautiful start because we've got some good heavy death metal on the show today. Courtesy of a band that Peter's been following for a very long time, so much so that he included them on our 2019 albums to look forward to. But lo and behold, it's taken us a year to actually get them on.
Yeah, man. I mean, a couple of months ago when I got the album announcement, I was like, oh boy, we have to get, like, it's finally happening. Like, it's here. So when I the album, I knew that we have to get the band on the podcast. And in case you're still wondering who it is, you haven't heard the old episodes, it's Akurion from Montreal, Canada. And what's really cool about the band is while you have Mike DiSalvo, ex Cryptopsy on vocals, you've also got former members of Neuraxis on there and also current members of Cattle Decapitation. So, an all star band, if you may. And yeah, man, the music speaks for itself, really.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Akurion's album Come Forth to Me was released last weekend. Because of that, we got in touch with Mike DeSalvo and decided to do a different format with him this time around. We've brought back Breakdown. It's a format on which we essentially try and break down a song, and we are breaking down. Wow, like you should all. This is a nice drinking game, huh? Like keep tabs on how many times we say breakdown. But yeah, sorry. Yeah, so we are breaking down Year of the Long Pig, which happens to be the first ever song that Akurian ever wrote together as a band.
Yeah, man, it was really cool speaking to Mike and just kind of getting into the details of the songs.
Yeah, just to add one teensy little point there, this interview as such was recorded quite a while back before this entire coronavirus thing happened. So, of course, everybody's sounding a lot more happier, and there's no elephant in the room as such to speak of. So, here he is. Here's Mike DeSalvo and Akurian. Here we go.
And I'd like to welcome to the show Mike DiSalvo. Welcome to the
All
show,
right.
Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a great honor for us to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm well. I'm well. Likewise. Also, I just want to point out that I have never been interviewed from someone from India, so the honor is mine.
All right. We're glad to hear that. And, the reason we're talking to you is about Akurion. I hope I get that correct. Album, uh, Come Forth to Me. Uh,
Correct.
you know, for me personally, this has been one of the albums I've been looking out for a while. When Animesh and I started this podcast late 2018, I kept telling him about your band. And when we did a list, which was the albums to look out for in 2019, I had the album listed there. So
Oh, awesome.
how does it how does it feel now that the album's going to be releasing in a couple of weeks?
It's invigorating. It's been a long time coming. This is a project that has been, in the wing for many years now. It's on 8 years at this point. So, for us, we never wavered from what we wanted to do. But in the same token, we realized that that it's been an extensive period of time for reasons that are out of our hands, and you just sort of go with the flow of it. But we always had that thought that, like, we know we'll release it, and when the time comes, it's going to come, and it's as simple as that. We're not going to force it. We're not going to, pressure anyone or pressure the album. So, we half-ass it or, any of this type of stuff. We just sort of pushed off and said, when it's ready, and now it's ready. So yeah, we feel very very blessed, very excited. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, and to see it come to a point of near fruition at this point is invigorating.
All right. And let's get into the lead single itself. It's called Year of the Long Pig. And we'd like to play it first without any interruptions before we get into the breakdown. We believe it's
Awesome.
the first song you wrote for the album, and that's one way to introduce it. How would you introduce this song?
That's a good question. I would introduce it as it's the first track that we wrote, that Rob and I got together with. It's the first track that we sat down, and he showed me the riffs, and I had some patterns. Not even lyrics per se. I did have some lyrics, but it was really just kind of enunciating some rhythm parts through his riffing, no drums or anything, and that's how it started. So this is the beginning of Akurion, really.
Lovely. And here it is. Here is Year of the Long Pig. And that was Year of the Long Pig, and now let's break it down. Let's play the song. Was that a phone ring?
Where? In the beginning?
Yeah, at the very beginning. Say at the 4
Shit,
second.
I hope not. No, I don't believe so. No. No, actually, I don't. I think that's the bass. Actually, I think that's Ollie.
Really?
He's got that really. Yeah, there's a dissonant feel to that bass tone. I think that's what you're hearing. It's
Okay,
definitely
so
not a phone, or it should
we heard,
absolutely not be in there.
we hear that sound quite a few times in the song, especially when there's an abrupt end and a ring out. And I'm a bass player myself. I never thought I could make that sound out of the bass.
Yeah, Ollie is he's a wizard on bass. I will say that. So he's creating magical notes from that bass.
All right, can we continue?
Right. Those opening riffs followed by, you going, suffer, it's what you've been taught. I mean, that's such a crushing start. I don't have any other way to adjective to describe that track. So my question here is, had Rob already written this riff before you both started collaborating, or did it come later?
Yeah, he had. Funny enough, he had six. I believe it was 6 out of 8 songs that were skeletons. So they were just pieces. This is one of the songs though that he had brought in that, of course we made some variations and some arrangement adjustments, but I mean in general, he had this one pretty plotted out. And like I said, I mean he came in that riff right in the beginning, and it's funny you say that too, because we just said, like, as soon as this song starts, it's like on old tracks that we had done. We had a friend that had done some drum programming for it, and then it was just pre-prod shit. And I remember when we had at least that, even before when we were just putting it, I was just like, man, this is like a brutal beginning of the song. This can crush, exactly what you're saying. And so then when we actually put the drum programming to it. And the drum programmer initially was Ollie from from Cataclysm. He had put together a couple of songs with the program, and it was pretty much the same way that we begin. And I just remember looking at him like, Jesus Christ, man, like this is fucking brutal. Like this is old school, back to no nonsense bullshit. Like here we are, And so yeah, I agree. I think it's one that we had thrown around as the beginning of the album, but then we opted to go a different route on that. But it was certainly a front runner for how we would begin the record. And I think it's great where it's placed now. But in hindsight, I still believe it's best placed as song number 7. But we definitely threw it around as a possibility.
All right, let's continue.
Yeah, and now you see the whole shift in tempo, and you come in with the lines, slow roast of an era, the terror of mankind. Tell us about those lines, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, the song was, the approach was very satirical. I like writing with a lot of, I don't know, hidden message type of stuff, and I'd rather not write something that's just blatantly straightforward. Whether this is or not, it's I mean, people could read that and say, okay, I get what it is. But for me, it really was Year of the Long Pig. Like it was based on a satirical approach on how humans treat one another. And I think at the time, I can't place an exact moment in terms of something that inspired me per se for this particular song. But I know that in general, I think people are, we're pretty disgraceful bunch, and especially how we treat one another and treat different cultures, and just it's basically like, if you don't have the same belief system, if you don't believe in the same God, if you don't believe in the same political movement, if you don't, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you're a piece of shit, and we'll hang you, we'll chop you up like mutton or like pigs. And so that was the approach with it, was how can I get this point across and not be so straightforward with it, and put a bit of a spin of humor in something that's humorless.
Okay. I have a follow-up to ask you over here regarding that lovely panning of the central scream as such that's been done. Whose idea was that?
Yeah, that was my idea. I like a lot of I like to try a lot of different effects. Although we didn't do as much as I would probably do if we were in a studio together with an engineer.
Okay.
So a lot of that is a bit more difficult to express because Gene Strider, who engineered the record, um, when you're the final engineering of it because Alex Beer is the one who recorded it, and we did try some stuff with him. But when it goes to because Gene is in Berlin, so it's not always as easy to say, hey, I'd like this kind of sound. I'd like to try this, so there's some discrepancies in terms of that. If I was in a room, there would probably be more experimentation for those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one that I had said, look, I'd like to try. We actually tried a few different things with it. And I think Gene initially, when I explained, this is a good example of it. When I initially had explained what I was looking for, what she had done was she had taken it like far right or something, and then had moved it. And I was like, no, I'd like it more centered, and then kind of swivel back and forth, So things like that, it's not always through text that your point doesn't necessarily come across as
Yeah.
well as
Yeah.
sitting in front of the speaker and pointing to it and say, right here, this is where I want this, But nonetheless, like the fluidity of the work process was exemplary, So there was very. There was no issues, not even very few. There was no issues, She's a gifted musician and engineer. So, a lot of times when you say something, I'd like my vocals a little bit wetter here, or whatever the case may be, she gets it. She knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, this certainly seems to be a good example of somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. It's not my first rodeo in the studio. So
Of course, yeah.
So that you learn a lot, you pick up new things, and for myself, I don't want to say I have a signature sound per se, but I at least in my head I do. Like I could picture, I'll hear something and even before we lay the, we're just practicing, and that idea spanned from just jamming. Before we had done any pre-prod and before we had actually recorded, so this was sort of a long-standing idea that we were finally able to put together.
All right, let's continue.
And again, the line, spread it upon a toasted culture. I know you did talk a little bit about the whole theme of the song, but if I may ask, what is this the recipe for?
Yeah, I just when I wrote this one came together. I'm laughing about it now, but when I had written that, I was laughing about it. I was like, and it run smooth like butter, spread it upon a toasted culture. I was like, okay, so that kind of rhymes, and I like that. I don't try to rhyme everything, but I there's a similarity. There's a to the ending of it. But I was just like, what could go with culture and butter? Well, yeah, a toasted culture. So, yeah, you know how these things work out.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's continue. Okay, and so we complete the first verse of the first section of the song. Being a bass player, I can't help but listen to the bass lines a bit more in detail. And it's very weird because through the verse, they seem to be cresting and falling. They're more pronounced and cut through the mix for one half of the riff, and then they seem to fall back for the other half. What's up with that approach?
I don't know. If I'm being honest, excuse me, we left all bass playing to the bass player, all drumming to the drummer, all arrangements and vocals to me, and all the guitar parts to Rob. So if there's things that you're noting of up front with one or on to the rhythm and then pulling it back a bit. These were decisions that were ultimately made by the musician. I think the pedigree of the four of us, we know what we're doing. So there was never any instances of maybe you should try playing, or very few, I should say. There were a couple ideas of obviously arrangement ideas, and maybe try this kind of beat, or maybe chunk up the riff here, or shit like that. But in general, the playing style and the musicianship of the integrity of the musicianship was left to the musician themselves. I don't think we ever really questioned this part. You're doing something that maybe we didn't see or didn't specifically hear. As the songs were being put together, these were a lot of these things. When we're jamming with them, everyone's in the same room and you're playing, and you hear all these little parts, and there's so many parts that I've listened to the record after, and I've jammed with these guys fucking how many times, and there's still parts that I hear from all the nuances, all the different parts in the songs. I'm like, shit, man, I don't remember them doing that. I don't remember him playing that, or things like that. So, the album has a lot of surprises in terms of the playability, and I think that's a pretty brilliant piece to it, is especially allowing musicians to do what they do best, and that's just play. Come up with your parts and play.
As it should be. So let's continue.
Yeah, agreed.
The chorus ends, and we've got a question for you here. The chorus goes, "Year of the Long Pig." What does that mean? Is it a take on the Chinese calendar? Because according to the Chinese calendar, the year of the pig is considered to be a positive one, generally indicating wealth, fortune, and for those born in the upcoming 12 months.
Yeah, it's true. I'm one that enjoys all that stuff, astrology and the Chinese calendar and all those things. So I find there's an affinity there for that stuff. So yeah, there is a play on that. I am Year of the Pig, so there is that also. The long pig is what back in 1700s when people had crossed in these ships to these vessels, they'd cross over to the jungles of wherever, and they would get off and they'd meet some local cannibals, and then they'd become food. And they were considered what the indigenous people would call long pigs as humans. So apparently we taste like pork. So that was the whole thing. So I again, it was a bit of that satirical approach of, okay, so I am the Year of the Pig. I do appreciate the Chinese horoscope, the Chinese calendar, and it also really fits in. It ties in with the cannibalistic approach of how humans treat each other. Whether they're eating them or not, they're still not kind. So I thought it was kind of a cool spin of just adding a long pig in there. Because that's what we were called as humans. We're long pigs. So that's where that comes from.
Interesting. And for all our listeners out there, the last Year of the Pig was 2019. Am I right, Mike?
Yes. No, it's this year. Year of the Pig is this year.
Oh, it's 2020?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's supposed to be good fortune this year. You're right. You're bang on that.
Yeah. I have to mention the riff for the chorus and the bridge kind of changes the dynamic of the song completely. I know it's the chorus. You can actually headbang to this riff this time around. It kind of offers some relief after that intense opening. Was that kind of the intention of having a...
Yeah, I think so. And that actually had come about from... that was the first section that we had that I had put words to, as we had, as we got to Rob and I had gotten together. I had a studio at my old house, so we were just sitting in the studio. He's playing guitar, and I had this idea of Year of the Long Pig. And as we were playing, I just caught on to that part, and I was just, I followed what he was doing there, and I said, man, this is like the part where everyone's got like their fists up and everyone's like kind of going crazy, This is a chorus that people can get behind in terms of, like you said, breaking away from the surging craziness of that whole first part into something that people can just kind of like, you picture people diving off the stage, and I mean, that's what I picture anyways. Like the fist pumping and everyone just fucking going crazy to that type of a chorus, and I can appreciate a good chorus, for sure. And that to me is I think it's the quintessential chorus of the album. Really, I think that's the one that's like it's different. There's no other riffs that we do that are like that. There's no other sections in any of the other 7 songs that brings that type of feel. I think that's the exclusive one right there.
All right, let's continue. Wow. Oh, mini bass solo. I'm loving how the bass isn't coloring within the lines now. It's almost driving the song at times, leading the way for the rest of the instruments.
Yeah, I agree. That was definitely decided early on. We said, let's have a break here, and it should be driven by the bass.
Okay, so why the bass and not say a drum, mini drum solo here, or a mini guitar chugga?
Well, I think we really do come from, I mean, we're all different ages, from myself to Ollie, I think there's a 20-year difference. But nonetheless, we're all old school death metal fans. So, you picture like some of those like old Carcass records or old Napalm Death, and there's a lot of bass-driven rhythms through there. And that specifically, I remember, I want to say it was me, but I'm not 100% sure that had said, look, we should add that in, because I really, personally, I love those little bass intro into blazing part after that, and I always whether it's something that's mid tempo or something that's grinding, or if it goes into it's a bass into a slower riff like Brutal Truth would do a lot of bass, and then go into these like sick breakdowns and stuff like that. So so they sort of carried the torch from those earlier death metal albums where bass was quite prominent, like sloppy sounding, dirty bass and shit. Mm-hmm. So we did want that really pronounced pronounced sound that would lead into the next section for sure.
All right, let's continue.
Now, again, while Animesh is the bass player, I'm the metal nerd that goes through the lyrics. So, again, corrupted, demoralized, front the fires of deceit. Tell me about these lyrics, because now we see a kind of shift from the satirical part that you had.
I didn't want it to be 100% satirical. I mean, theme-wise, yes, but I also wanted to add, certainly some grit in there, and some strong words, and some the strong meaning behind those words. So yeah, I think I was trying to specify that we are a corrupted bunch, we are a demoralized bunch. A lot of humanity is based on deceit. So yeah, for sure, those words were, especially coming into that section there, I wanted to make sure it wasn't something that was, I don't want to say goofy, because I don't think any of them are goofy, but I didn't want to do something like the last line there about rapes, genocides, and party favors. It might not fit on that section as it does in the earlier section. So yeah, there was certainly an approach of that through this whole section. Really, the lyrics were meant to sort of deliver that message of, yeah, we're not a nice bunch, collectively, we're not a nice bunch.
Again, I have to come back to these lines. If you ain't eating him, then you're just killing him. I mean, like, it's like straight up. Now,
Such
by this point, you're like just straight in the face.
Yeah, yeah. That section and like the next section or the next set of lyrics here as well. It was I wanted to bring it back around to that theme that I was that I actually just had set up with the rapes, genocide, and party favors. Obviously those things aren't like fun situations, but if you're not eating them, then you're just killing them. So it's kind of like that. It was really my thought process on that was thinking of Buffalo and how when the Americans came over and when the Europeans came over into America, and then they one way to remove all the Indians was to kill what their only sustenance was in terms of meat and clothing, things that would keep them warm in the winter, and they just decimate these animals, and they weren't eating them, they were just killing them. So that was that approach. And the next line was really a swing back around to the rapes and genocides. I guess you'll play that part next, but if you ain't eating them, you're just fucking them. It was kind of that swing back around to that, and that was a late addition actually. I don't know if we're jumping ahead here, but that was a late addition. That section, that last line, because I think I had just put, if I remember correctly, I think I just said the same line over again, and then I was like, you know what, like maybe I can jar some people's impressions of this, and either people are gonna get it, or they're just gonna be turned off by it, and that's okay. Like it's art, it's entertainment, and most importantly, it's us. It's we did it for us. We weren't doing this for other people and their impressions on it. So it was really a last line. Like I think as we were nearing the time to start recording it, I switched it and put that in, and everyone kind of laughed about it. We're like, because we're pretty open about the words and the lyrics, and we talk about like what we're doing right now is quite cool, because this is not something I normally do. But with the band, we'll go through and we'll kind of discuss like sections and things like that too. So it's cool to be in a sort of a different environment than just the four of us and sort of laying it out for people to see.
Literal pig squeals and tribalistic percussion. What's the purpose of the sample at the end of the track? What's the story that you're trying to tell here?
This was also an idea that we had early on. It was an idea of mine to go out and actually record some pigs. Take a Zoom and go out to a pig farm and just just lay it out there and just record a bunch of pigs running around. Then we started to look at some samples and stuff like that, and we realized that we had there's some really awful sounding squeals that sort of almost identify the sound of somebody in dire consequences or dire situations. So there was that sort of approach. Okay, instead of just getting a bunch of pigs running around and being happy and lying in the mud, let's get some pig squeals that are haunting and something that is slaughterhouse style. And the percussions were based. Tommy and I played the percussions on this one. Tommy played the drums on it. The percussion, the drum parts, and then I played some stick banging and some shit like that, some eggs and eggshells and things like that we're adding in there. But the idea behind that was basically, okay, so we'll pull it together with the pig squeals, the ignition, first of all, the ignition of the fire, the pig squeals with that in the background to sort of lay out the idea of the long pig approach with indigenous people, so that brings that sort of back into context with the drumming, and also the drumming. So we purposely went into it with not necessarily a drum beats that were perfectly symmetrical. We didn't want something that was 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. We kind of wanted to do it like ad hoc in the sense of what we would envision. When there's a human on a stick, rotating over the fire, and then everyone is a fervor where they're going to eat, the tribe's eating, and the drums might not always be in sync and and perfect, and so that was the approach with that. Was like, all right, let's see if we can. Because Tommy's a fucking brilliant drummer. So if we needed it, in 4-time, or if we needed it in separate, he could have done it all. But really, we went into it to say, let's throw it off a bit, and let's just kind of make it so that it's not so perfect. And I think that would be a better approach for what we wanted for that, and I think it works.
So are those real pigs then? In the sense
those are real pigs, yeah. Those are real pigs, but they're sampled. We went through. It sounds so ridiculous, but we went through so many different pig sounds, and that actually, when we first had done that, it was I think we extended it. I think the first time that we recorded it and added it, it was over a minute, but it was just too long,
Yeah.
So we cut it. We cut it.
Okay, I only asked because. You might have heard of what happened to this British hardcore band called The Gallows, and their track Misery, which is from their second album, Great Britain. They included an entire section of pigs being slaughtered, and it became so notorious, that sample, that initially the band went out and told the press and told everyone who would listen to them that those are actual recordings of pigs being slaughtered, but then they there was such a huge backlash to it that eventually they just ended up saying that no, they were just recorded samples. We didn't actually end up slaughtering pigs.
Yeah, I have not heard that. Quite honestly, the sounds of the pigs, I don't know the context of where they got those pig squeals or any of that stuff. So whether they were actually from a slaughterhouse or not, I don't know. And there's nothing that from that sample that we had taken, there was nothing that signified anything of that sort.
Yeah.
And so but even that, come on, man, who the fuck is gonna go and complain about that shit? Fucking grow up, go fucking stand out in front of fucking president you don't like, or fucking or premier that you don't want, or you're gonna fucking bust balls on a band. Come on, man, that's ridiculous. So we certainly, do we want to press some buttons? Yeah, of course we want to press buttons. We're a fucking death metal band, we don't want people to feel comfortable, that's for sure. But we didn't, one thing's for sure, we didn't put on to say, look, we want to find slaughterhouse pigs squealing for their life. We just found some that were gritty and dirty enough for the layout that we wanted for the ending of the song, and then for and consequently for the entrance into the next song. So that's really what it was more or less we were going for, not to find the animals that were being tortured and mutilated. So that's fucked up though. Yeah, I haven't heard that. I'm gonna look that up.
We're kind of done with this section of the breakdown. For the next part, we want to dig a little deeper and break it down further. So, can you talk to us about your songwriting process? Not specifically for this song, but the album, Comfort to Me. What comes first? The riff, the song idea, the lyric?
The riffs. The riffs definitely came first and foremost on every song. That was the driving force. Was what Rob had brought to the table, and then initially it was just he and I, like I said. So before we brought in Tommy and Ollie, we had already gone through. I think at the time it was 6. I'm pretty sure we hadn't. Yeah, it was 6 songs. So we had already developed a generalized idea and at least a blueprint to bring to the table to show these guys, hey, this is some ideas that we have, and then we built out from there. Many of the time changes and the rhythms and things like that remained. There's as in any songwriting in any songwriting capacity, you're going to have many changes and many alterations and things of that sort. So once you get 4 guys in a room, things do change. But really, Rob had the vision, riff-wise, and then I think when we brought those in, I already had 6 song titles already selected, some lyrics for it, and then some placements, obviously. Then it's really coming back around and like placing it as the songs come together and being in the room with them, because we would get together, the 4 of us would build the songs, craft the songs, and it was done in the same room. So as bass parts are being added and little drum nuances and fills and things of that sort are being added in, so are the lyrics. And placement. So now it's better. Now I get the organic, earthy feel of the drums. Now I know where the song is going. So now I can better place my arrangements for the vocals, and it all just sort of falls into place.
All right. How do you decide how a song behaves and takes shape? And also, when do you know when it's time for a new riff, new section, or just when the song is done?
A lot of it is based on feel. We had parts that were less times with the like say we'd have a bridge that we would use for the riff twice or something, and then sometimes we had added another 4 or something, or so there are those variances that do take place. But we would build the song, and then as the song was being put together, a lot of the other ideas start to stem from that too. So like the whole thing with Souvenir Gardens, and those are old lyrics that I had. It was an old poem that I had written, as an example. So then I added to that poem to fit with the rest of the lyrics. But there was always the idea of having something that was very somber in the beginning of the album, in the beginning of that song, something that was an acoustic piece, and then the idea stemmed to have Luke come in and give him the idea of the song, show him what we were doing for the song, and then tell him the idea of what we wanted, and he did that awesome arrangement. That really fell in line with the rest of the song. It was perfect. It's like he's the 5th member. So things like that. A lot of those extra pieces come together as the songs are being put together. But it's definitely a process that is based on drums, guitars, bass, and vocals, and that's where it really starts. That's the root of it.
Okay. How much of thought goes into how a listener will perceive or receive the music? What I mean is, sometimes, say for example, a song takes the listener along with it. The listener knows what to expect, and then the song delivers. It becomes an easy to predict song and hence to follow along. But that's not the case with Year of the Long Pig and most of the other tracks on the album. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I really we the thought process was that we didn't want something that was going to be a cookie cutter, the same old writing structures. Yes, fine. Some of the earlier songs that we had worked with that were a little bit more direct. You can almost tell the songs that were earlier on versus the songs that we had written later on. And I think that was a natural progression for us as well. We once we said, okay, well, sure, we have some more driving songs, and then we want to do something that's a bit more progressive and something that's not as easily labeled as straightforward. It's this is the style, and that's So we that was definitely a conscious decision to push the boundaries, really, to come up with something that was going to be a little bit more fun to listen to and unexpected, and really, it was definitely something that we sat down and said, okay, like as we're putting these songs together, like let's not come back around to that part, if ever again, like if we come back around to it, it's later in the song, and if we don't come back to it, well, fuck it, it's okay. Like we don't have to come back to these parts, So once we sort of let that age-old process down, let our guard down in terms of that, the songs just started to write themselves, and that I think that's a strong point of the album.
Okay, and you kind of alluded to this earlier in the conversation, but Year of the Long Pig is your lead single, and yet it sits pretty late on the album. What's the thought process behind that?
Well, it's truth be known, it's the second track. It's the second release, second single.
Okay.
The first single was the first song on the album. So that's what we led with, and that was one that we actually there was a thought process in terms of, do we actually start with Leave Them Scars, the almost 10-minute long song that has exactly what we were just saying, like so many different time changes. It's like 3 or 4 songs in one. But we just we said, like, look, let's give people what we it's the lead off song for the album. So this is the song that we wanted people to hear from the go. They press play, that's the song. So why not that be the first single? And then subsequently, the second single be the one that's the shorter song, and gives really that sort of unexpected approach. Give somebody a 9.5, almost 10-minute long song, and then swing back around to a 3.5 minute song. So, and then we're going to come back with Bed Sores to the Bone for the third single. That's going to be released in the next couple weeks. I don't have a definitive date on that, but that's going to be the next one. And that one's a 6.5 minute long song too. So we really hit. It was. I think it was set as to do long, mid, small, and we shuffle them around. I think we shuffled back and forth with Year and Bed Sores which one we would do. The first one I think was unanimous in terms of we wanted to start with that one, and then the other two were, okay, which one do we do? And then, okay, well, it makes sense to do the long one, and then give the shorter song in the album, and then let's hit them up with something in the middle, in between. Give everyone a flavor of what's to come for the record, because it all the songs are quite different from one another. So, we wanted to showcase exactly that we've got long songs, we've got short songs, we've got medium song, mid-time songs, and we've got songs that have different tempos. We've got songs that have different arrangements, and make sure that we had something to showcase the full album in 3 songs. This is what you can expect.
All right. You talked a bit about this earlier, where you had Luke Lemay guesting on the opening track, which is, as I put it, the 9-minute epic Leave Them Scars. Another guest on the track is Lord Worm. And I was reading an interview where you said, I had our guests in mind for those specific parts. So can you tell us about that approach of songwriting?
Yep. And actually, Jean-Marie Leblanc from Vengeful was the third vocalist on that. That was a thought that had come around from the inception of that section. Once we put that section together with the whole little bass intro, again with the bass, we wanted that driving bass to come in before we kicked into gear on that particular section. But the idea was for me to do the main vocal section through there, and then to have Leave Them Scars like shout it out, but instead of having myself just do the shout outs on it, this was something that was an immediate thought process to have three different vocalists come in, and three different distinct voices come in and do those parts in between, so like interwoven into the driving lyrical section through there, So that was. I mean, it was honestly, it was instantaneous that we were going to do that. The only thing that I would say that there was a couple of things that had changed. And when we would practice this, it was Ollie that would do the backups through there. So it was one voice. But we knew that we were gonna do that. And as soon as we asked the three guys if they would do it, it was an immediate of course. And then we set up the times to do it, and it was just it was perfectly, it was symmetry. It was perfect. So one of the ideas was, we wanted Luke, and then we had Jean-Marie in the middle, and then Lord Worm at the end of it. All three guys are dear friends of ours. So, and then the other section of it, when we come back into it, we were going to do the same thing. And initially, it was going to be the same sort of. Then I was like, well, fuck it, why don't we switch it up? So you've got the three of them in unison, or subsequent sections after each other, and then why not twist it around and have Lord Worm come in first, and then Jean-Marie, and then Luke. Luke Luke was in the middle. Jean-Marie that starts. Let me back it up. Jean-Marie starts, Luke, and then Lord Worm. And then the second time around, we would have Lord Worm, Luke, and then Jean-Marie. Have him end it instead of having him. So just that little switch, I think, adds massive difference in the song. If you're listening to it, if it's not something that's just playing in the background, you might not catch it. But if you're listening intently to the album, you'll be like, "Fuck, man, that's a crazy little switch up." And then there's a section that we switched when we were when I had Luke record. I did three different because Luke recorded separately. So when Luke recorded his parts, there was three sections where he had said "Leave Them Scars," and then when I had the two of them come in, Jean-Marie and Lord Worm, when I had them come in to the studio to record their parts, I said, "Well, try something. I'm going to have you guys do two, so then my vocals will cut in through that instead of going three. So it's not just three. So it ends up being 2-3-2, and it's just small little differences like that I think really kind of pushed that point across that we were getting this. It's not to do the same shit over and over again, but to try to break it up, and little things like that certainly help with what our end goal was.
Awesome. So I've also read that Comfort to Me was tracked live without any click track. So my question being, what made you decide to record, if I may call it, the old school way, especially in this day and age of technology when it's much easier and also in a way much affordable?
Yeah, that is absolutely accurate. We did record that in over 2 days. We recorded the songs back to back. We just went through them, and all your basic tracks, from vocals, guitars, bass, drums, all of that is one take. There was no cutting in and out. We played the song straight through. Well, we busted our ass. We were in the pocket. We were jamming. At that point, we were jamming twice a week. We knew what we were going to do, and we knew from the beginning. This is something Rob and I had discussed from the start. Is we didn't want something that was going to be over-processed and over-engineered. And look, we've all been there. We've all done it. Why not do something like you said, sort of the old school process? The only thing that was different, we didn't do it on reel to reel, but we wanted something that was going to be organic, and we wanted the songs to breathe. We didn't want that age. Who the fuck likes playing on a click? I don't. You know, I mean, it becomes so robotic. And like I said, it's not to knock on anything of that. I've done it. We've done it. Every musician has gone in the studio with a click track, and not so much for me. For me, it's more a feel. I always approach it with a feel. But the brilliant musicians that I've had the fortune to play with over the years, sure, that does happen, and it's okay. And like you said, it's more affordable. It's easier. You can punch in and out. But then we were like, well, fuck, man. We're like, we know what we're doing. We're in the pocket at this point. We're playing well. But even before that, I mean, we know this was something that had been discussed from the get-go, and we got ourselves to that point where it was just, like I said, we did it in 2 days. And it felt right, and there was no like, oh fuck, we got to take this again. It was like, we have to do this like the 20th time. There was none of that shit. We played the songs, and we took. I think the one that took the longest, if I remember correctly, was Leave Them Scars. I think that one. It's it's a 9.5 minute long song. So to play that through, I think that one we had probably done like 4 times or so. 4 or 5 times. We had gone through and like, okay, get halfway through and there's a fuck up, and I'm like, all right, let's go back, we'll do it again. And you're on top of your game when you're actually sitting there, and it's like, okay, this means something right now. This isn't just a jam. This is the album. This means something. So you're on your toes, and it's quite a feeling to actually be in that situation of playing and say, okay, almost like if I could equate, not musically, but equate myself to like James Brown or something, where it's like, man, those guys get up on stage and they fucking bash it out, and you fuck up, he gives you a smile, and it wasn't to that point of that, but it was to the point of we had to believe in one another to lay those songs down, and we did. We had full confidence in each other and full confidence in ourselves, and I think it comes across on that album.
Okay. So, considering how in the pocket you guys were on the record and how well it mimics your live sound, are there any plans on performing live, or does Akurion remain a studio-only band for now?
I mean, the best way I could say it is our ears are to the ground. If there's something that arises that makes sense, we haven't played in a while, so there's the aspect of getting back together. I'm not relearning the songs, but getting back into playing shape. So there's a few things that would come into play. I mean, if it was a if it was a good enough show, if it was financially, if it was right, there's a whole bunch of aspects that would have to come into play. I would say that we're open. I think initially we weren't so open to it, but as the album came a little bit closer, and I think we started to say, okay, well, look, if there's something that makes sense, and it's the right thing it's the right showcase for Akurion to come up and perform, then why would we shoot ourselves in the foot to say, yeah, fuck, we're not gonna, it's a studio project, that's it, that's all. I think that we've all performed many shows, hundreds of shows. So we know what it's about, and we know what we need to do to prep for it. And if it's the right move, then it's the right move, and we'll entertain any offer. And doesn't mean an offer comes down and it's the right one, but I think if we turn our back on what is put forward to us, then we're doing ourselves and we're doing our fans a disservice.
Kind of.
So my next question to you is, when are we coming to India?
I didn't want to follow it up with that one.
Because there I will come. I'll be there tomorrow. I want some Indian food. I want authentic Indian food. That's all I ask.
Hey, if that's the only thing that it'll take, then you tell us how many tickets.
All right, perfect. I'm there. I'm on the next flight out.
All right. Kind of our final question to you. Considering, and again, this is going through the buzz that was created over the last few years when the band was once announced. I mean, there was a lot of focus how you were the ex-vocalist of Cryptopsy and the other members were part of Neuraxis. Uh, did you feel any pressure or expectations while working on the music on the album?
That's a good question. No, we really, truly, and honestly didn't. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that we said from the go that we want to write this album for us. Really is what it comes down to. We want to put an album that we're happy with, we're satisfied with, and it's not something that we're focusing on what people are going to think about. It's more of are we happy with it? Are we satisfied with it? And those other pieces will fall into place. So there was definitely no thoughts on, oh fuck, are people gonna dig this? Or we never talked about any of that stuff. It was like cool if people like it. Really, the thought process was, if people like it, fantastic. If people don't like it, fantastic. Whatever, you like it, you don't, it doesn't matter. We as a four piece walked out of all this. The whole design, the album cover, the songs, the arrangements of it, the set list, the set order, the whole thing. We just said, okay, this is what we feel is the best we can put forward at this time, and that's all that matters. Is that we're happy with it, and then everything, like I said, everything else will fall into place. If people dig it, great. People don't, it's okay. So it's not, you're not going to win over everyone. And we're not, that isn't the intention behind this. The other thing that we've seen that we really want to shy away from is, when you say people talking about the fact that, I was in Cryptopsy and all these in Cattle Decapitation, Rob's in Neuraxis, and Tommy as well. It's for us, it's our past. And you're always going to embrace the past. I wouldn't shit on anything of what we've accomplished in the past. But we also, in the same context, the last thing we want to be labeled, and we have seen that a few times, and I hate this moniker, and the band hates it, is a supergroup. It's like, fuck, man, there's no supergroup here. This is bullshit. It's not a supergroup. I think somebody coined the phrase, and I don't know who the hell wrote it. Somebody years ago, we had when we first had released it. Yet You See Them Not in the live at Donaldson's studio. We had done that, and someone, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was. I forget which page it was, but someone had wrote, supergroup, blah 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 blah. And we're like, oh god, cringeworthy. Like we don't like that. And and then someone wrote supergroup, more like super poop. And for me, I remember my wife and I, we saw that, we were fucking dying laughing. We're like, that's brilliant. Like, and that's how we look at that stupid moniker. That's late. Like, who the fuck are we to say? We don't say that. It's someone else that's been writing that. Like, you can look at what we've done in the past and love it and admire it and listen to it and and talk it up and stuff like that. And you could even mention it. I don't have a problem with saying that we were in those projects, but I most certainly don't want to entertain the idea that this is a super group. It's four guys, four friends getting together, playing some music, and with zero thoughts on, hey, we're who we are, and here we come, and we're gonna fucking change the recipe for bread. Like, it's not what we were looking for. Ever, it's just really about putting the best songs that we can do out there, and we wanted to avoid anything that is related to it. I've seen it a couple of times already, and I think all of us were just like shaking our head. We're like, oh man, come on, no, please don't. So,
so thank you so much for your time, Mike. I hope you enjoyed the whole breakdown with us of the Year of the Long Pig, and we wish you all the success with Come Forth to Me. So. Really glad we had this conversation.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been an honor, and thank you dearly for spending some time with me as well. So it's been an absolute pleasure. It's a lot of fun. This is something, like I said, this is something I haven't done before. So this particular style. So this was a breath of fresh air, and I wish you guys nothing but great fortune, and I hope to see Horns Up fucking on the elite podcasts out there.
Thank you so much for saying that. We'll try and get you over for Indian food whenever we can.
Yes.
And to sweeten the deal, animation I will cook.
Awesome. Thanks, gentlemen.
Wow, that was the longest conversation. Lots to
Yeah.
digest, lots to learn, lots to kind of pick brains about.
For those of you who are still not convinced, at least now go check out Comfort to Me. It's quite a solid release, I'd say.
It surely is. I'm sure it might make year-end lists.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you heard the part where he talked about, super groups and stuff like that, hence I said all-star group. But yeah, I mean, they did get a lot of attention in the start, but once you hear the music, it's definitely going to be there in one of the top lists on most people, if not some.
So that's it then. The offer's still open. Come out, reach out to us. We're at honsupod.com. I'm at Asmani on Twitter.
And I'm Trend Crusher.
And till next time, it's Honsup.
Hansa.